Step into the captivating world of the Behind the Curtain podcast, where your dynamic hosts, John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, bring together a wealth of 60 years of combined experience in healthcare and manufacturing. Join us every week as we delve into intriguing topics, weaving unscripted conversations that promise to take you on an unpredictable and enlightening journey. Gain valuable insights for your continuous improvement adventure as we navigate uncharted territories with enthusiasm and expertise. Welcome to a podcast that goes beyond the ordinary, unraveling the mysteries behind the curtain of knowledge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain. As you have seen this month, we've been really focusing on leadership. We started off talking about leadership commitment and the critical, importance of why people say yes, and understanding what they're saying yes to. And then in our last episode, we talked about the leadership style that's needed in any organizational change. Today's topic, which is something that's very passionate to me, is, and John and I have been talking about it for years, is, well, that's great that we're committed. It's great that we understand the style, but what do we do? And so today we're going to be talking about leadership participation. How do leaders participate on this journey? So John, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, it kind of summarizes what we've already discussed in the last two episodes. How committed is the leader, and how do they show that commitment? And it's more than just, going in and kicking off a training session. It's actually participating in the training. I think leaders should, at a minimum, go through every training that they expect their employees to go through as it relates to teamwork and continuous improvement and Lean and Six Sigma. And ultimately, it would be great if they could commit to training, actually doing the training themselves, because you really learn a lot more when you have to be the one up in front of the group explaining these things. Now, not everybody's cut out to do that. So that's where we have to be a little bit careful. Maybe you're more of an introvert than an extrovert, and you don't feel comfortable being in front of a group of people. So at a minimum, like I said, you need to go through the training, but ultimately it'd be great if you actually gave it. The other thing is that, like when we talk about Kaizen events or rapid change events, where you're pulling teams together to make improvement happen. I think leaders should be on one of those teams on a fairly regular basis. So, you've got sponsors. That could be the leader's role. You've got facilitators. Leaders could facilitate, but I'm actually talking about being a member of a Kaizen team. I remember talking to the head of Toyota North America operations at one of the conferences I attended. And I asked them that question. I said, hey, Toyota's been doing this for forever. How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it going? And he said that every leader, every person in Toyota is expected to do a 1-week Kaizen event every year. And that week is sacred, that you basically put it on your calendar and everybody knows that you're not available that week. And for him, being the head of operations for North America Toyota, he could get assigned to any plant in the world, and he would get that notice, and he would go and he would participate for that week. And then his boss was expected to attend the report out at the end of the week. Yeah. So every participant's boss would be part of the report out. So whenever one of his employees, direct employees, went to a Kaizen a week, he would then participate in the conclusion on that Friday. So think about all the touch points that means that the leaders were involved with. And that happens every year without fail. He said that's one of their kind of sacred things. And that keeps it fresh, keeps it going. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you hit on a few things there that I just want to go back to that I think are just critical ingredients. The first part is, as a leader, You said you were committed to a certain level of principles. Let's say one of them is leading with humility and another one is respecting every individual. Okay, what's your vehicle to demonstrating those? And so what I feel that are critical is that when you start looking at the vehicles that are afforded for you, that's really what lean is all about. And that is what organizational change is really about, is to be able to give you vehicles we sometimes call tools, okay, to be able to activate those principles. And so being able to attend a Kaizen event shows that you respect every individual, but also you yourself are humble enough to be equal to everyone else. And you are not above the other people that have to do this work. And you're there side by side with them, leading the troops into making this improvement. And so that is a vehicle that's afforded for you. So as people start looking at, well, why do I need to do certain practice? Because you have to demonstrate certain behaviors. And so, I have a list of things that I kind of walk my leaders through. I call them, sometimes it becomes their what is called leader standard work. But there's ingredients in them, and they're all measured around team participation time. How much time in a 40-hour, 50-hour week do you participate with your team? Or do you not at all? And sometimes the answer is, well, I participate at least 5 hours a month or 5 hours a week. Well, okay, that's better than zero. But is that what you want the culture to see you as? Is that, they're an afterthought. They're not the actual main ingredient to your everyday work. Because in the end of the day, you're either developing your people or removing barriers for your people. And so you're doing continuous improvement or you're growing the business. Like one of those two, that should be your only focus. Being in meetings, which is a death zone for people, is not accelerating. And sometimes, half of your meetings don't even have decisions. It's all non-value added stuff. The value added stuff is you actually doing the work. So some of the ingredients that I pepper in what they do, how do they participate, is, how often a day, not a month, not a week, how often a day do you go out there and find things that people are doing well to recognize them? Every single day. Well, we don't have time for that. Well, that should be your number one thing, because that shows you respect every individual. That should be what you're exhibiting, is do people feel appreciated every single day? And sometimes I'll ask people, hey, on your daily management huddles, on your boards, on your visual management boards, do you have recognition? And they're like, well, we couldn't find one. Well, did you go and look for one? And because it's not going to just naturally, organically just pop up and come to you. You have to go hunting, because in the end of the day, you're teaching people how to fish. And so one of the things that you need to do is role model how you appreciate others, because then they're going to go appreciate others, especially their team. So that's one of them. The second one is, do you go find the pebbles in people's shoes on a daily basis? Because that shows respect and that shows humility. And so going out there every single day, sometimes people call it waste walks, and saying, I'm going to carve 30 minutes every day to go out on the floor and look for pebbles in people's shoes. But not solve it for them, empower them, show them that I know they have the answer, to demonstrate that I understand their separate reality. I'm in the moment. They're the most important person to me right now. And I'm going to have discretionary effort to even be willing to remove some of these barriers for you, regardless of how small they are. And so that's another practice. So a lot of people say, how many waste walks should I do a week or a month? Well, why can't you do it a day? And you could do them parallel. You could do appreciate people and look for their pebbles all in one walk. And so you could go around and find people to recognize, but then you need to find a way to promote those people, not promote them as in growing the organization, but promote them as communicate to everyone that you appreciate this. So modeling certain behaviors, I think, is critical. Other things too, which sometimes could be taken as an audit, which is I'm completely against, but doing like standard work observations, going out there maybe 2 or 3 times a week and doing a standard work observation, or doing a 5S walk to look for opportunities on the floor. You're not going there to scrutinize, to say you failed your standard work or you failed your 5S audit, because people that are doing it that way, they're weaponizing that vehicle. I think the thing that they really need to do is go out there and be like, I saw that you didn't follow the standard work. Okay, you did it another way. Is our standard work wrong? Like, let's own that maybe that person is actually smarter than what we have, and I observed something that you might be doing better. And if they're paranoid that you're observing them, that means you've never been out there observing them. Okay, if they're used to you seeing you observing them, they're not going to be paranoid anymore because they know what you have their best interest. It's going to be a win-win. You have their back. They're going to trust you. But if they don't trust you, they're going to be paranoid. So if people tell you they're paranoid because you're watching them, you should reflect on why. Are they paranoid? Because you never show up. And so I feel some of these participations, if it's a standard work observation or a 5S audit, should have the intention of empowering individuals and have the intention that I'm seeking to make it better for them. And if it's not followed, I have to understand why. Oh, wait a minute. They keep putting the tool back in the wrong spot. Why? Because maybe we shadow board the wrong area. Maybe they're a left-handy, not a right-handed person. And we went in there and did it for them. And so some of these things I feel like are just, good practices that people should do. But I think some other really critical ones are you the one training your people? Or do you have an outside person? The outside person should help train you, become your coach, so you could train your people. It shouldn't be, lean is not delegated, and lean is not a spectator sport where you could sit behind the scenes and say, all right, everyone, you guys go do lean now. That's not commitment. Commitment really is you saying, I want to learn this, teach me it. I'll observe you doing one. Then I want you to observe me doing one. And then I want the organization to start kind of waterfalling this learning so that everyone is actually being taught how to fish and we're not fishing for them. So
Right.
I would say these are a few things. Any
Yeah,
more that you want to add?
yeah, in the book that I wrote, I tried to capture what a day would look like for a style 4 leader, which we talked last week. That's the empowerment leader, right? That it's empowered their teams of employees. And it mirrored a lot of what you're just talking about, right? You start the day off and you spend an hour walking the process, talking to people, getting to know them, finding out what their issues are, what can you do to help. That might be then followed by an hour coaching session where you're coaching one-on-one with someone to help and develop their skills and help develop their um, leadership styles. Then that might be followed by an hour with a customer to get direct feedback from the customer. How are we doing? Be honest with me. What can we do better? Whether it's an internal or external customer. Then the next hour might be with a supplier to start. How can we do a better job of partnering with each other?
Yeah.
And the next hour might be on vision, where you're pulling some folks together and you're developing your vision for where you're headed into the future. Now, notice what's not in that list. What's not in that list is going to worthless meetings just to show how important you are. Not putting out fires for others. Not running around to make puffing up your chest and saying look how great I am. Now again, this goes back to what we talked about a couple of episodes ago. What's the root cause for why don't leaders do these things? Why don't they spend more time out on walking the process, talking to employees, getting to know them? Well, again, goes back to the root cause. If the criteria for promoting and hiring people, future leaders in the organization, is we're only going to hire those that are showing the most control, that are the best firefighters, who use command and control style leader, then that's what people are going to do.
Yeah.
And all that we've just talked about this episode is hot air. Even though it's been demonstrated, and this is what's so frustrating, is it's been demonstrated over and over and over again that those organizations that treat their employees well, have empathy with them, have humility, spend time listening to them, helping them knock those barriers down, helping them deal with the pebbles in their shoes. Those are the organizations that tend to just do head and shoulders better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And there's example after example after example of that. Yet we still are reluctant to change the criteria for what a good leader looks like and needs to be promoted because of 150 years of history.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I want to add to, because I think the one-on-one coaching sessions a day that you pointed to, I think are like critical ingredients. Every single day you should be developing someone, and intentionally developing someone, not on the fly. So like pulling them in and just seeing like their career path and how could I grow this person. Like that should just be a daily thing. And then the other thing that you pointed to is talking to your customers and suppliers, because a lot of people squeeze them rather than partner with them.
Right.
Like, we try to get away from involving our customer because we don't want to show our baggage. We want to squeeze our suppliers so we could, squeeze every penny out of them rather than actually spend some time to actually build those relationships. And in the end of the day, all of these habits that we're talking about, and they're habits, they're not checkbox things that you do once just for the aesthetics that the leader is doing this for like 6 weeks or so, and then they go back to not doing it anymore. What you're trying to build here is a habit, an expectation that that's what you're starting to do. You're not going out there for your presence. You're going out there so that you could be building trust and relationships with these people. And if you take it from the perspective that, hey, one of the comments that I learned from one of my senseis over the years, he said, Mohamed, you can't be going to the gym to lose weight. You have to be going to the gym to be fit. Both are the same exercise machine, and they look aesthetically the same exact thing. They're both showing up, they're doing the same exercise machine, but one's mentality is a destination mentality and one is a journey. I want to be fit. It's not just the exercise machine. I'm going to also eat healthier. I'm going to think positively. I'm going to live in a different way now. And people that are participating with their individuals, they can't go at it with the perspective of I'm going to lose weight. Because if they're doing it, it's a checkbox. And once they hit a destination, they're going to go back to the old way. If they're doing it from a living, I want to live, like it has to rub off at home even too. Like I have to be humble at home. I can't be like this tyrant when I get home. Like I have to live these behaviors. I have to be in the moment. I have to be curious. I have to understand separate realities. I have to have discretionary effort. Like I have to be able to coach and develop people around me. And I'm using every one of these vehicles to do that. And so if you're doing this as a checkbox, it's a facade, it's a weight loss program. If you're doing this as a fit, then you yourself have to know that what you're doing is building a habit, both organizational habit, a muscle that they're going to kind of have that muscle memory, but also something for you as an individual. And when you don't do one, it should be eating you alive rather than be like, I got away with it.
But it does start with building the habit, right? And the way you build a habit is, it's the old saying that you've got to do something like 7 times in a row to really start getting it to be ingrained. Yeah. Imagine how cool it would be, because one of the excuses that people give that don't do these things is that, oh, I'm just too busy. Man, my calendar is full. I don't have time. Imagine if you worked for a boss where in a staff meeting, the boss were to say, you know what, everybody get out your laptops, go to your, calendar. And I want you to right now put an hour every day. You can pick where it goes in the day, an hour every day for walking the process. And that's sacred. Nothing can get scheduled in those hours. And I want everybody to pick an hour a day where you're coaching someone, one-on-one coaching. And then say, and that's sacred. Now you can schedule things around the other hours, but I want everybody to have, something on your calendar for walking the process for an hour and coaching for an hour. But you're right. And then that would start getting people into the habit of doing it. Right.
Yeah.
But that may also become a checkbox. So then the leader, the boss, would need to follow that up and say, okay, at the next staff meeting, so I want to hear from each of you. What did you learn on your walks? What are we going to do differently from what you learned on the walks that you did? Who did you coach? How did they respond? What are you going to do to help them in their career and move to the next level? How did those discussions go? And then, the first week, everybody be like, oh, gosh, he's serious. He or she is serious about this. maybe I need to go a little deeper next week, because if this is going to be a routine thing, well, I can't just check the box anymore. I need to really sincerely do it. Now, I may raise my hand at that point and say, I don't really know how to coach people. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. We'll get you a mentor. We'll get you someone who can help you with this.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's going to be able to do this right
It's a
off
new
the bat.
skill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
A lot
new
of people show
skill.
up to the gym and don't know how to use a treadmill even. It's okay. We
Yeah.
need a good instructor.
Yeah, and that's part of the humility. But see, again, back to the root cause. It was frowned upon for people to admit that they didn't know everything because, these tend to be, fairly high paid positions. And oh my goodness, why are you in this position as a VP of this or COO of that? And you don't know these things. No, you got to have again, this is where changing the culture within the organization, changing, how people interact with each other is so critically important, to where you develop an environment where people are comfortable in raising their hand and saying, hey, this isn't something I've done in the past. Is there someone here who can help me understand how to do the coaching or how to do a proper walk on the shop floor?
John, you pointed to something right now that I think is super critical to our audience. And it reminded me of a leader with an organization that I worked with. And she was a president. And one of the things that she did that, was a learning journey for me too, because I thought she executed it flawlessly, was in the daily management systems. She had everyone have a no meeting zone. It was from 8 to 10. Every single leader of her direct reports did not have a meeting from 8 to 10. And what she used her huddles for the day before, her huddles were at 2 p.m. And so what she used her huddles for had no metrics of performance on the front lines. Those were like monthly things that they did to understand strategically, are they moving the dial or not? But she used the daily management system to understand certain decisions that were coming to their level. Is it because people feared them and so couldn't make the decision? Or was it a competency issue? And she would tailor her next visit on the next day to go to that person's huddle, because all the huddles that these decisions should have been made at were between 8 and 10. And so she kind of targeted those areas to say, you know what, based on this, I want to go observe that huddle to see, is that person empowering their people? Because these kind of decisions should have been made at a level 2, and it's coming to a level 5. And so why? And so I want to go observe to understand, is there an issue there? And it became a habit where everyone else started to say, we want to do that too. And she recognized the tier 1s and the tier 2s were all between 8 and 10. And so, but there were only 15-minute huddles. And she used the other time to take individuals aside and do one-on-one coaching. So her coaching and her Gimba walks and her employee rounds and stuff like that were all between 8 and 10. But she tailored the target towards what she learned from the huddles. Gotcha. And so every single day, she would be like, all right, based on our huddle today, I'm going to visit this tomorrow. Where are you guys going to visit?
Yeah.
And they would all fit to the next day.
Yeah. Hey, great discussion. And we'll pick this up next week when we start talking about things that leaders might encounter where they have to overcome difficulties.
Yeah, there are some conundrums that they run into.
All right, very good. Well, we'll see you next week, Mohamed.
All right, John, have a great day.
As we draw the curtains on another fascinating episode, we wanted to express our gratitude for joining us on this enlightening journey. If you're hungry for more captivating and thought-provoking discussions with John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, hit that subscribe button to ensure you don't miss a beat. Until next week, keep exploring, stay inquisitive, and stay inspired. See you on the next Behind the Curtain adventure.